What if I told you that everything you think about Henry VIII is wrong? What if I told you that beneath the armor he was actually a misunderstood romantic, a loyal lover, a genuinely good husband? Psych,
Surprise!
absolutely not.
Bet you didn't
He
see
was a
that
monster,
coming, did ya?
but you fell for it for a second, didn't you? Let's be real. Welcome to your life. You are Henry VIII, the biggest red flag in human history. Your Tinder bio reads, divorced beheaded died, divorced beheaded survived. That's not a nursery rhyme, buddy. That's your body count. You are the king who literally broke Christianity in half just to get some action. But before you became England's most famous serial killer, you were actually Europe's most desired it boy. So how did you go from Disney prince to horror movie villain? Let's hit rewind. Most people know you as the fat guy from history class who chopped off his wives' heads because he wanted a son. And yeah, you did that. You are the single biggest walking red flag in human history. Your Tinder bio reads, divorced beheaded died, divorced beheaded survived. That's not a nursery rhyme, buddy. That's your body count. But before we drag you through the mud, let's drop the ultimate plot twist right now. The history books usually leave this part out because it's too weird. You are the accidental architect of the modern world. Let's connect the dots. Dot number one, the language you speak. Because you got into a fight with the Pope over a divorce, we'll get to that you isolated England from the rest of Europe. You were cancelled by the superpowers of the day. To survive, you poured all your money into building a massive royal navy. That navy eventually became the Death Star of the oceans, allowing England to colonize the globe long after you died. Think about it. If you hadn't fought with the Pope over a girl, the British Empire might never have happened. You wouldn't be struggling with your English homework right now. You'd probably be speaking Spanish or French. Dot number two, the birth of America. Your Diet Catholic Church, the one you invented just to annul your marriage, was messy. It was corrupt. It was mid. This annoyed a group of religious radicals called the Puritans. They hated your system so much that they hopped on a boat called the Mayflower to start over in the New World. The logic is undeniable. Henry's libido caused a religious mess. Wa right arrow was Puritans got annoyed and left watch your right arrow die. The United States was born. Basically, without your divorce drama, America as we know it might not exist. Donald Trump might be selling tacos in a Spanish colony right now instead of running for president. Dot number three, the modern economy. When you ran out of money for your useless wars, you started the Great Debasement. You mixed copper into silver coins, literally creating fake money. You were the original money printer, go brr. It caused massive inflation, bread prices skyrocketed, and the poor starved while the 1% feasted. Sound familiar? We are literally living in Henry's economy right now, just with better Wi-Fi. The modern mirror. And speaking of modern politics, look closely in the mirror. Does your leadership style look familiar? You are the original populist. You were MAGA. Make Anglican great again long before red hats existed. You ruled with main character energy, creating a polarized us versus them society. You were either a patriot who loved the king or a traitor who loved the pope. There was no middle ground. You fired advisors by decree, basically the 16th century version of firing people via tweet. You even invented cancel culture, but you played on hardcore mode. Today, if you say something dumb on X, formerly Twitter, you lose your job. In your court, if you stayed silent like Sir Thomas More, you lost your head. The biological horror. But here's the question, how did he become this monster? Was he born a tyrant? Absolutely not. And this is the plot twist that changes everything. Once upon a time, Henry was a Chad. He was 6'2", shredded, spoke 3 languages, and was the Disney prince of Europe. He was reasonable. He was charming. So what happened January 24th, 1536? You were jousting. You charged down the list and crashed. A 1,000-pound armored horse fell directly on top of you. You were out cold for 2 hours. Modern medical experts believe you suffered a severe traumatic brain injury, TBI, to your frontal lobe. That's the part of the brain that controls impulses, empathy, and social filters. The nice Henry died in the dirt that day. The man who woke up was a paranoid sociopath with 0 impulse control, and the accident crushed your leg, creating a wound that never healed. For the next 11 years, you had a rotting, oozing hole in your leg that smelled like death and caused you agony every single second of every single day. Imagine being in constant pain, unable to move, trapped in a rotting body. That pain turned you cruel. It turned you into a monster who wanted the whole world to suffer with him. So how did a spare heir nobody wanted become the most infamous serial killer to ever wear a crown? And how exactly did he ruin the lives of 6 different women in his quest for a son he didn't even need? To understand the disaster, we have to go back to the beginning, back before the rot, back to when you were just a teenager with a credit card and a dream. Let's hit rewind. You are born in 1491, but here's the thing, nobody cares. You are the spare heir. All the attention goes to your big brother Arthur. He's the golden child, the valedictorian, the one destined to be king. You're plan B. You're the tire in the trunk that everyone hopes they never have to use. Psychologically, this messes you up. You grow up spoiled with unlimited money but zero responsibility. You develop a desperate need for validation. You become the ultimate attention seeker. Does this dynamic sound familiar? A redhead, second son who feels overshadowed by his brother and hates the rules? Yeah, you're basically Prince Harry, but instead of writing a memoir called Spare to complain about your feelings, you chose a different coping mechanism, decapitating people. But in 1502, the universe pulls a prank. Arthur dies at 15. Boom. Just like that, you win the lottery. You inherit the throne, your dad's massive treasury, and most awkwardly, your dead brother's wife, Catherine of Aragon. Now, the Bible says marrying your brother's widow is incest. Your dad keeps her in the friend zone for 7 years while lawyers argue about it. But you're a hormonal teenager with a crown. You decide to marry her immediately. It's like using your inheritance to buy a Lamborghini before your dad's funeral is even over. And let's get one thing straight, because this is important. Stop picturing the fat guy. At 17, Henry VIII is a Chad. I'm talking absolute gym rat energy. You are 6'2", shredded, you have calves that could crack walnuts, you speak 3 languages, and you compose poetry. You are the Renaissance Gigachad. You are Europe's collective wet dream. When you take the crown in 1509, it's not a coronation, it's the start of the world's most expensive frat party. You spend your days jousting, hunting, and partying. You hand the boring job of actually ruling the country to Thomas Wolsey, a butcher's son turned cardinal, who becomes your CEO. Wolsey does the homework, you take the credit. It's the perfect setup. For a while, you are the golden prince. You seem perfect. Generous, handsome, athletic. Do you think they saw what was coming? Not a chance. But deep down, the monster is already awake. It's just waiting for someone to tell you no. Fast forward a decade. The honeymoon is over. You have a problem, and her name is biology. Catherine of Aragon is getting older. She has given you a daughter, Mary, but no son. In your twisted mind, a daughter is basically a participation trophy. You need a male heir to secure the dynasty. Do you blame yourself? Of course not. You blame God. This is gaslighting God tier level. You convince yourself that your marriage is cursed because you married your brother's widow. You literally convince yourself that God is punishing you. And then she walks in, Anne Boleyn. Anne isn't just a pretty face. She is a master strategist. While other girls were happy to be your side piece or sugar baby, Anne said, no ring, no thing. She played the longest game of hard to get in history. She didn't want to be a mistress. She wanted to be the sugar queen. She dangled the promise of a son in front of you like a carrot, driving you absolutely insane with lust and ambition. So you tell Wolsey, fix it. Get me a divorce. Wolsey calls the Pope. The Pope, who is basically God's customer service rep, says no. Can you imagine the shock? You have never heard that word in your life. Your brain short circuits. You throw a tantrum that shakes the foundations of Europe. And poor Wolsey, the guy who carried the entire kingdom on his back for 20 years. You ghost him. You fire him, strip him of his property, and basically bully him to death. Loyalty meant nothing. The second Wolsey stopped being useful. Do you think that's toxic? Just wait. Brexit 1.0, the God complex. If the Pope won't give you a divorce, what do you do? If you're a normal person, you cry. If you're Henry VIII, you fire the Pope. In 1534, you pass the Act of Supremacy. You declare yourself the supreme head of the Church of England. Let's analyze the audacity of this move. This is a textbook God complex. You literally rewrote the laws of heaven just so you could legally sleep with your girlfriend. You turned religion into a personal tool for your libido. It's genius, but it's also the definition of unhinged. Now the mask is fully off. It's no longer about love, it's about submission. Sir Thomas More and Bishop John Fisher. Men who were your friends, mentors, and the moral compass of the nation refused to sign the paperwork. Chop. The message to the people was clear. Loyalty to me is more important than your loyalty to God. And what about Anne Boleyn, the woman you broke the world for, the love of your life? 3 years. That's how long she lasted. When she also failed to give you a son, you decided her warranty had expired. You accused her of adultery and incest, total lies, by the way, and had her beheaded with a French sword because you wanted to be classy about it. Let's see the irony here. The man who fought the world to marry her murdered her the second he got bored. This was the moment the fun party king died and the tyrant took over. We touched on this in the intro, but we need to go deeper. Because to understand the bloodbath that follows, you have to understand the pain. The date is January 24th, 1536. You are 44 years old. You are going through a midlife crisis. You want to prove you've still got it. You mount a massive war horse at Greenwich Palace. You charge. Crash. The horse falls on you. You are crushed under 1,000 pounds of armor and muscle. When you wake up 2 hours later, you are different. The TBI, traumatic brain injury, has scrambled your frontal lobe. Your patience is gone, your empathy is deleted, paranoia becomes your default setting. But the leg, oh God, the leg. The wound becomes a chronic ulcerated nightmare. It oozes pus, it smells like rotting meat, it requires daily draining. Do you think a headache makes you cranky? Imagine having a rotting hole in your leg that screams in pain every single second of every single day for the next 11 years. Because of the agony, you can't exercise anymore. But you keep eating like an Olympic athlete, 5,000 calories a day, roasted swan beaver tails wine by the gallon. The result? The ultimate glow down. You balloon from a shredded bodybuilder to a 400-pound immobile invalid who has to be hoisted around the palace with a system of ropes and pulleys. The physical transformation fuels the mental one. You are in constant agony, trapped in a body that is failing you. And like a wounded animal, you lash out. You decide that if you are going to suffer, everyone else is going to suffer too. Welcome to the reign of terror. This is where you go full Mad King. The wife speedrun. Wife number 3, Jane Seymour. She gave you a son, Edward, but died in childbirth. You call her your true love, mostly because she died before you could get annoyed with her. Wife number 4, Anne of Cleves. You bought her from a catalog of painting. When she arrived, you said she looked like a horse. You divorced her in 6 months. She was the smart one. She took the money and the castle and lived happily ever after as your sister. Wife number 5, Catherine Howard. She was 17. You were 49, fat and rotting. She cheated on you with a younger guy. Can you blame her? But you didn't see a sad old man. You saw a victim. Himself. Chop. Wife number 6, Catherine Parr. She was basically your nurse. She survived by outsmarting you. The great heist, you need money, so you unleash the dissolution of the monasteries. This sounds like a boring policy, but it was actually the biggest armed robbery in English history. You looted every church, shrine, and monastery in England. You melted down ancient relics into gold coins. You burned libraries. You stole the land and sold it to your friends. You destroyed 1,000 years of history just to fund your Gucci lifestyle and your useless wars in France. The echo chamber, you create an atmosphere of pure terror. Remember Thomas Cromwell, the genius fixer who made you filthy rich, the guy who arranged the dissolution. You thanked him by shortening him by a head. Why? Because he made one mistake with the Anne of Cleves marriage. This is a lesson for every modern CEO or politician. If you fire the smart people and surround yourself with yes men, you will fail. By the 1540s, your court is a ghost town. Everyone is terrified. You are a bloated, screaming mess sitting in a room that reeks of infection, convinced that everyone is out to get you. And the sad part, you made it that way. So how does the movie end? Does the king find redemption? Does he find peace? Nope. In January 1547, you finally log off. And it was nasty. You didn't look like a king. You looked like a cursed ham. You weighed nearly 400 pounds. You were so swollen with infection and grease that it took a team of men just to shove you into your casket. And here is the final grotesque cherry on top. Rumor has it that during the funeral procession, gases built up inside the lead-lined coffin until it actually exploded. Fluid dripped out. Stray dogs came to lick it up. Even in death, you were literally a toxic biohazard. The cosmic irony. But the real horror isn't the exploding corpse. It's the failure. Think about it. You broke the world, murdered your wives, and traumatized a nation, all for one thing, a son. You needed a dynasty. So what happened? Your son Edward was a sickly kid who died at 15. The crown went to the daughters you had ignored and mistreated, Mary and Elizabeth. Neither of them had children. The Tudor dynasty, the legacy you killed for, went extinct immediately after your children died. You played the Game of Thrones and you lost. Hard. The final takeaway. Henry VIII is the ultimate warning label for unchecked power. He proves that intelligence and talent mean nothing without character. He proves that if you surround yourself with sycophants, you will lose your mind. Mark Twain said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes." Look around you today. The paranoia, the ego, the polarization, the absolute refusal to hear no. Do you see Henry's reflection in modern leaders? I think you do. So here's my question for you. If you were dropped into Henry's court tomorrow, how would you survive? Would you be a sycophant kissing the ring? Would you be the rebel losing your head? Or would you be the internet troll getting dragged to the execution block? Drop a comment below and let me know your strategy. We are living in the world. Henry built a world of global empires, religious fractures, and political chaos. He was a monster, yes, but he was our monster. Thanks for watching the tragic reality show of the Tudor dynasty. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or I'll have to tell Henry you're a traitor. And trust me, you don't want that smoke. Class dismissed.